Hey, what is up, YouTube? Smolder here, and I am doing a thoughts video on Yakuza Kiwami 2. Just played it for the very first time here in 2023. I gotta say, as someone who I started with 0, then I played Kiwami 1, and before I even played 0, I had actually played Judgment first. That was my introduction to the style of games. Obviously, I thought Judgment was great when I played it, and I played 0, and I thought 0 was so phenomenal that I put it up there as one of my favorite games of all time in terms of story and characters. And then I played Kiwami 1 also earlier this year, and I will say I actually thought Kiwami 1 was a little bit of a step back from 0. It felt like they had taken away certain extra elements from the game, of the more side stuff, right? There was less mini games and things like that. Not to say that the story wasn't great, but Kiwami 1 is obviously a remake of the original Yakuza game from 2005, I want to say. Around there, maybe 2004. And it felt like a continuation directly from 0, and it like continued the story, and it kind of ended that story. Whereas Kiwami 2 feels fresh. It felt fresh, and it felt the story is much more contained in of itself. There were still, callbacks and stuff to 0 and Kiwami 1, Majima. But it felt much more on its own, and I think it was a good thing. On top of that, all the minigames you can ask for in this game. I'm going to, start by saying I think Kiwami 2 is, out of 0, 1, and 2, Kiwami 2 is the best Yakuza game that I've played thus far. I still need to play 3, 4, and 5, which will be the remasters of the PS3 version, then 6, etc. I'm trying to catch up. A lot of games coming out, though. But this game is phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. Beginning to end, I think this game has now surpassed 0 for me in terms of like being one of the greatest games that I've ever played for story and characters. Like, it's literally like playing a movie. It's phenomenal. And then also it being in the more updated engine rather than the engine that 0 was using. It's using the engine that they used in Yakuza 6. This game is just incredible in that space. Now, let's talk about some of the things that maybe I didn't like as much. It took me quite a while to get used to the combat. It felt very different than Kiwami 1 and 0 to me, for whatever reason. I know they obviously changed it. There's no stances. You just straight up go, which makes more sense, right? Kiryu he's a beast. He doesn't need to change his stances or anything. You're just like unlocking more moves. But I actually had a lot of trouble until I realized Kiwami 2 wants you to use weapons. It really wants you to use weapons. And then once I started doing that, I kind of like blew through the combat. And should be noted, I played this game on the hardest difficulty. The game really wants you to use not just weapons, but items in general. And it made everything much more enjoyable. I pretty much went from actually having trouble in a lot of like really big important fights to, I think, the second half of the game. I don't think I died a single time. I might have actually, but it was night and day difference once I started using items much more regularly, which I didn't really do in 0 and Kiwami 1. But it was an adjustment period. Still one of the things that I don't really want to knock it for this, but the game is pretty much fully voice acted, except side content isn't. And then there are certain times where the main story isn't voice acted, and I'm like, why? I don't understand. Excuse me. Everything should just be voice acted, right? You got the voice actors, you gotta just voice act everything. If the game is already like 90% voice acted, I don't understand why you can't voice act these other things, at least with the main story. It always throws me off because it makes me think, oh, it's not voice acted, it must be side content. And then it's not, and I'm like, what's going on? That doesn't make any sense. So really any other things that I had trouble with or that I'm like, maybe this was a negative or a knock on the game? Because this game was... Like, if I played this game back when it came out in 2018, this would have probably been my game of the year. Because what came out in 2018? Red Dead 2 and God of War 2018? Yeah, this probably would have been my game of the year. I honestly think Kiwami 2 is better than God of War 2018 for me. Granted, of course, recency bias, but... Characters, man. Kiryu, he's still that stoic badass, which a lot of people might think, like, okay, Kiryu's a little one-dimensional, a little boring, but at the same time, you know what you're getting with him, and he is just such a good dude. He is someone who... He's in a world of crime, right? It's ridden with all, criminal organizations and everything, but he always wants to do the right thing. He always does what he can to do the right thing. He's always very stoic about it, but he's not afraid to get his hands a little bit dirty and a little, things like that. So I love him. And the main villain, which you can see on this wallpaper here, Ryuji. Oh my god. This dude was badass. And then the returning cast. I mean, you have Date-san, you have a slew of other characters that have come back. The manager / bouncer of Stardust. I can't think of his dude's name. He was in Kiwami 1. I can't ever think of his name. I want to say it's like Fuya or Huya or something. He's got the maroon coat. Introduction of a pretty important female character in the game, which is nice. And then the plot twist with her. Oh man, I'm not going to reveal that because I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible. You heard it here though, that there is a plot twist with her. I hope she's in future games and is a continuing character. Obviously, Majima's in the game. There's a whole mini game with Majima, dude. It's fantastic. The side stuff, the whole story, it just picks up instantly, and it's just go. I honestly can't wait to play the other games to kind of just see where the story ramps up to, because I know 6 was the last game with Kiryu, and 7, Yakuza 7, or like a dragon, we have a brand new protagonist. And so that's going to be a little interesting, It's going to be interesting. I am interested to see how that's going to go. But anyways, guys, just wanted to make a short thoughts video on Kiwami 2 while I'm thinking about it. And essentially, playing this in 2023, the game's fantastic. It is an incredible game. Even if you don't really like beat-em-up games, just play it on a lower difficulty. The game is phenomenal. Stories, phenomenal writing, characters, everything. It runs the gamut of phenomenal game. And the main story's not that long, right? I think the main story took me maybe 25-ish hours. I'm trying to think, because I obviously did side content too. Which some of the side content is incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And that's the other thing too. I love the dichotomy of the main story is this super serious, gritty, like crime drama with twists and turns and everything. And then all the side content is just beyond off the wall, over the top, ridiculous, silly, goofy, wacky stuff. I love the Yakuza franchise. Absolutely love it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be getting more thoughts on other games coming out. All right, peace.